Can we skip to the good part?
It doesn't really work that way.
What do you mean? I did the thing with the hand.
Yeah, no, that's not actually real.
Welcome, gentlemen, to the wall. First off, a massive thank you to everyone who helped us reach that glorious 100K subscribers. I know we've been a bit MIA, medical stuff, you know how it is, but we're back stronger than ever. Fresh ideas, hard-hitting content, and today's episode is no exception. We're diving into the story of a woman who decided to get divorced, but spoiler alert, she regrets it now. You know, that modern fantasy that divorce is the gateway to freedom and empowerment. Well, turns out not everything that glitters is gold, and that whole idea of the grass being greener on the other side. Yeah, maybe don't bank on that. So, make sure that button feels your power, subscribe if you haven't yet, and if you really want to support the movement, share this video with more men who need it. That's all we ask, brother. Drop your experiences in the comments because here, we learn together. Without further ado, let's get started.
It's so hard. Can we skip to the good part?
It doesn't really work that way.
What do you mean? I did the thing with the hand.
Yeah, no, that's not actually real.
It's not?
Far too many times I see people make the decision to break up their family on purpose without truly weighing the consequences. I'm Elizabeth, a mom to 4. I am remarried after going through a divorce 5 years ago. I have 2 boys from a previous marriage. My husband has a daughter from a previous marriage, and then we have a baby together. So I want to share in depth the consequences, a few of the consequences that come when you break up your family on purpose. Because these things are not talked about enough, and I think that divorce is romanticized more than it should be. People get in divorces because they just want to be happy. Yeah, well, here's what happens when you have that as your motivation. Number 1, your kids are going to suffer no matter how amicable the divorce is. Co-parenting is really hard. If you're going through a divorce, it probably means that you don't get along with the person that you're divorcing. Then when you go through the breakup, you have heightened feelings of anger, emotions, whatever. Pile on top of that, both of you have children together that you absolutely would mama bear up or papa bear up on to protect. And then you feel like the person that you're divorcing is your enemy. So unfortunately, what happens a lot of times is the kids get put in the middle of your war. And you're probably thinking, no, that won't happen with me. I thought the same thing, and it was devastating. And let me tell you, there is nothing worse than watching your child suffer. And there's nothing you can do about it. Or at least it feels like there's nothing you can do about it. People also don't talk about what happens when you have a 50-50 custody situation, so you're sharing custody, and you go from seeing your kids every day to not seeing them half of their life. And in the beginning, this is really jolting, especially because if you are like me, I didn't have a great relationship with their dad, and so I didn't always talk to them every day. I didn't obviously see them every day. And I was a mom who saw her kids every day. I tucked my kids in bed every single night of their life, literally until the day that we went through our divorce.
I'll give this woman some credit for honesty, because at least she had the guts to admit what most don't want to face. Divorce is being romanticized. We've said it in multiple videos, but I want you to pay attention to how quickly she moved on with her life. 5 years divorced, and she's already remarried. With a kid. Draw your own conclusions, folks. She's right when she says nobody wins in a divorce. But here's the kicker. In life, there's no such thing as a tie. If there's a house, a home, kids, and a routine, and someone wants out, it means one of you wants to leave. But here's the twist. Who's the one who has to go? Because she's divorcing you to get away from you, but not from her comfort zone. She wants you to leave. And that's where it gets juicy. She even says it herself. I thought I'd have an amicable divorce. But guess what? It wasn't. And of course it wasn't. How's it going to be amicable if I'm the one who has to leave everything I work hard for? That's when things get messy, but let's keep going.
You also have to share holidays, and this is really, really hard. Because in the divorce, typically your community changes. And I don't know if you're like me, but holidays for me with my kids were like the most special thing ever. And then you go to not being able to see them on the holiday, it's really hard. You basically have to make brand new family like traditions and rituals, because every other tradition that you've been celebrating up until that point is painful. It's a painful reminder of what was or what could have been. I am not trying to sway you one way or another to go through a divorce, but what I will say is that if you are considering it, you have to consider the fallout for your children especially. And so hopefully these are some tips and behind the scenes looks at somebody who has gone through it, has come out on the other side. I have a really good co-parenting relationship with my ex-husband and his wife, and we're in a much better place. But let me tell you, it is the hardest thing because of what the kids go through and what you go through, but ultimately what your children go through. And if I can encourage you in anything, it is to keep your children and their needs at the forefront of your decision making, not your feelings, not your emotions. And it is so hard not to do because everything is emotionally charged. But the second that I put my feelings and emotions on the back burner and put my kids' needs on the front was when I saw huge changes in my children for the good, for the better, and in the relationship with their father. Okay, last thing. I heard this from a counselor that was counseling my ex-husband and I in co-parenting counseling. And she said that your children see yourselves in you and in your ex and their, father or mother. And the second that you say something negative, insinuate something negative in front of them or to them about the other parent, you basically are telling them, what they interpret is that you're telling them that they are a bad person. So I'll give you an example. Your kids get in the car, you ask them what they had for breakfast that morning, and they say, I had a Frappuccino with pancakes. And your immediate response is, can your dad feed you, healthy stuff? Gosh, that's so bad for you. What they hear, because they see themselves in their dad, what they hear, gosh, you don't know how to make healthy food choices. That's what they hear. So there's a way to get around that. And if you want more information on that strategy, just comment down below. There's a specific strategy that I'm talking about that was given to us by our counselor, but hopefully this is helpful. Divorce sucks. I'm not saying to get divorced or stay. Every situation's different, but you have to consider the fallout for your kids and for yourself.
Exactly. But here's the bigger issue. Whoever has majority custody of the kids holds the real power. In this country, judges decide almost 90% of the time that kids should stay with the mother. And these counselors say not to turn the kids against their father. But how often do we actually see that happening? A lot of women do the exact opposite. They leave you, they file for divorce, and when they don't hit their targets, especially financial ones, what do? They turn the kids against you. We've seen it countless times, and it gets even worse when the guy moves on with a new partner. Suddenly, you haven't seen your kids for months because conveniently, on the day you're supposed to pick them up, they're at grandma's, at camp, or just not available. All to make your life harder. But when it's time to ask for more money, they're ready for that. I'm not saying every woman does this, but most do. And what's the result? The kids grow up less attached to their fathers, or worse, they hate them. Even when the man, despite all the roadblocks, never stopped taking care of his responsibilities.
If you are considering leaving your partner, or you think that your partner is about to leave you, listen to the words I'm about to say. Also, if you received this from somebody, you need to bookmark, save, take notes on everything I'm about to tell you. I am 5 years post-divorce and I'm remarried. I have a very good relationship with my husband. We have a new daughter together. We're a blended family. I have read over 50-something books on marriage, divorce, attachment theory, all the things, have spent literally tens of thousands of dollars in therapy. And I wish somebody would have sent me a video like this before my divorce. Sarah's comment, I made this decision and regret it 100%. My ex was a great man. I just thought I'd be happier alone after 20 years of marriage, but I was miserable and my daughter was miserable. Biggest mistake ever. First of all, Sarah, thank you for your authentic transparency. It is refreshing, but also extremely sad. I'm sorry that you've gone through that. And here's what I want to say. No matter the path you take, whether it's staying in the relationship or going through the divorce, both situations take work. Staying in a relationship takes work to have a healthy marriage. And when you decide or whatever to pull the trigger on divorce, you're going to have an entire set of new things to work on going through your divorce. And then multiply that by 10 if you have children. So if you're watching this and you think your partner is about to leave you, or you're considering leaving your partner, you have to choose your hard, because both are hard. And relationships forever are going to take work. You might think that this relationship is too much work for you and then you move on to somebody else, but surprise, you're going to have to work in that relationship too. So if you haven't even been to therapy with your partner, if you've not picked up a self-help book or listened to podcasts, I'm telling you, before you make the jump to divorce, especially with children, start with that. Start with doing some work, because when you go through a divorce, it is an entire, it takes work to leave somebody. It's not just you sign some papers. When kids are involved, it's not you just sign some papers and you move on.
Cocaine is a hell of a drug.
The real problem with our society today is believing that when you make decisions that affect a group of people, you'll be the only one who ends up happy. That's not how it works. First, you ruin your husband's life, then your kids' lives, and in the end, even your own. There's always that idea that the grass is greener on the other side. But what usually happens? They leave the man who was willing to do everything for them, the man who truly knew them, just because the marriage got boring, because their life lacks those new thrills they crave, or because they can't handle their own personal unhappiness. So they decide to get divorced. But when they realize that this new adventure they imagined is nowhere near what they expected, and that their life is even worse, that's when the regret hits. And it's even harsher when you have kids who, day after day, remind you that you ruined their lives too.
You then have to figure out how to co-parent with somebody that you believe is your enemy. You have to figure out how to pay all of your bills by yourself and be a solo parent. You're going to have to find a new community of friends, because the old community that you were in no longer can relate to you. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what people say before you divorce. I'm telling you, the dynamics change. You might have somebody who brings you to court every 6 months. We call them frequent filers. You're only going to see your kids half the time, most likely, which also means you're going to be sharing holidays. So you're going to spend some holidays probably alone without your children. You literally are going to miss out on half of your children's lives. Half. It is the most painful thing. There are no words. So I'm just saying, you have to choose your hard here. Both are extremely hard. It's hard. Even in my new relationship with my husband, it takes work. He and I have gone to, marriage conferences and read so many books together, and we have set time aside every single morning to have coffee and connect with each other. We are constantly sending each other podcasts and books, and because he's gone through divorce, I've gone through divorce, we have agreed we are never going to go through that pain again. But we also, some of that pain that comes with divorce is watching your children suffer, and we don't ever want our kids to experience anything remotely close to that ever again. Now, I have to say, this does not apply to all situations. There are some situations with abuse and things like that where, yes, you need to leave. I am not talking to those situations. I'm talking to the people who they just don't get along, or they don't like their spouse or whatever, and they're like, man, I could probably be happier somewhere else. One of the comments that was on this video, he said something about how it was the best decision for him, but the worst decision for his kids. And man, I was like, yes, I resonate with that. Because I can find happiness and peace and joy and all of that, but the children, it's devastating. So choose your hard. My recommendation, and take it or leave it, is to at least try the hard first before you break your family on purpose. Try going to counseling, try the books, try all of that, and send this to somebody if you're thinking about leaving your partner, because what they're telling you is, let's do this hard before we have to do that hard.
You know when women really regret getting divorced? It's when they have to fill the man's role in the house. When they realize they now have to cover all the expenses, handle all the repairs, do all the cleaning, and also step in as the father in their kids' lives. And to top it off, when they see that the kids prefer to be with dad over staying with them. That's when it really stings. That's when reality hits hard because many minimize what the man did for them. And when you suddenly realize that your husband was covering everything that made your life more comfortable, that's when the regret kicks in. And of course, it's even worse when the quality of life drops to the level that only your own job can support. It's even worse when they were married to a wealthy man, but after the divorce, they don't get the alimony they were counting on. Suddenly, they have to live off their own skills, which in many cases is only enough for a job at a coffee shop. That's when they try to fix things. That's when the regret of the divorce really hits them like a ton of bricks.
I wonder how much the return policy in our nation and in the world, are there return policies in other countries? But I wonder how much that return policy directly affects the rate of divorce in our society. I'm getting ready and I'm literally just thinking out loud, so please be kind. I haven't really thought this through, but please be kind to me in the comments. But hear me out. Okay, I'm going to give you an analogy and then I'm going to tie it into a divorce situation in a second, so just hear me out. Okay, so say a little kid goes into an ice cream shop with his dad, and his dad goes over the flavors of all the ice cream, and his dad's like, all right, what's your choice? And the little boy's like, I want the vanilla with sprinkles. And they go up and they buy the ice cream, and as they're walking out of the ice cream shop, the little boy looks over and he sees another little boy with ice cream with something different than what he has, and he's like, no, wait, I want that one. But like, it's ice cream, like he's already taken bites of it, like he can't return it. So he can choose to be happy with his decision and go back to all the reasons that he chose this ice cream, or he can compare, and we all know that comparison is a thief. And here's my thought on comparison. We have a tendency to compare up to what we don't have instead of comparing down to what we do. Let that sink in for a second. And so literally just thinking out loud, I wonder how much of our divorce rate in the United States is because we are so accustomed and trained to returning the things that we don't want anymore or comparing to other things. And we so quickly forget all the reasons why we chose that thing in the first place, because there's always going to be something bigger, better, and the grass is always greener, which we know that that's not the case, but the grass is always greener. I know several people right now who have either recently gone through a divorce or are in the process of going through a breakup or divorce. Obviously, I'm not going to name names. Thank you. Are you putting makeup on me? Oh, you're so good at that. Thank you. And what's interesting to me is the reasons they're going through divorce. They all have the same reasons.
I'm not going to tell you the exact reason why this happens, but the numbers speak for themselves. 80% of divorces are initiated by women, and of that, 45% happen after age 40. Meanwhile, men, we're only asking for 20% of the divorces. Why do men file for divorce? The number one reason is infidelity, followed by financial issues. And women? Infidelity, financial reasons, boredom, abuse, which nowadays could mean anything, comparing themselves to other couples, dissatisfaction with their role in the relationship, lack of appreciation, the list goes on. In fact, I couldn't list all the reasons because we'd never finish the video. But here's a big one that's growing stronger. Social media. That constant bombardment of women telling them to get divorced. Those Instagram campaigns pushing the narrative that single women are the happiest, and the countless influencers giving toxic advice to women. It's wild. If your wife has a weak mind and lets herself be influenced by all this, tell me, what do you think she's going to do?
It's really interesting. And it's not infidelity. It's not abuse. It's not even narcissism. Okay, and remember, I'm just thinking out loud here. But the common theme that I hear and I see at the root of all of these issues is communication. It's communication. It's not feeling heard or seen or appreciated by the other partner. Yeah, you want to put it on my face? Go, oh, you're so good at that. Thank you so much. Oh, I love it. Oh, it's so pretty. Thank you. And another common thing that I'm hearing and seeing is the comparison thing. They're all like, yeah, and your husband doesn't treat you that way, or you're able to do this because he's not this way, and whatever. And I just wonder if the return policy is effing with our freaking mindset here. Like, if more people just embraced the growth mindset of, I'm gonna freaking we are gonna push through, and because it takes two sides. I'm not saying that it can be one person, but it has to be two, right? Like, I get that. But I wonder how many marriages would be saved if people didn't default to the return policy or the big D, divorce. And instead, they're like, we're gonna freaking push through this thing no matter what. Hell or high water, you're my ride or die. I don't care what it takes. We're gonna get through this I don't know, can I swear on here? Because here's the deal. It doesn't matter what marriage you're in, it's hard. The grass is only greener where you water it. I know I know you've heard that before. And just because you end one relationship and, find your prince charming with no issues, it doesn't exist. All relationships are hard. All relationships are hard, and they take a lot of work. And you go through seasons that are hard, and there's things that you cannot predict. I'll give you a great example. So when I married my husband, he and I wanted children, but we didn't know how we didn't know how we were going to respond with a newborn. And let me tell you, it hasn't been easy. Having a newborn adds stress, and I mean, she's great. I love our baby, but I'm just being real. Like, having a new baby dynamic in your household is a whole other level. Like, I miss my husband, and he sleeps right next to me every night. And it's because we have this little creature, this human that we're taking care of, and it's pulling from us. And you could not have told me that this was something that I would have, don't eat the sponge, hang on. Okay. But this baby, requires effort and energy, and there's only so much energy that both of us have. And so I'm just saying, there are challenges that are going to pop up in your relationship that you can't even predict when you first get married or when you first, are in a relationship. You do the best that you can, but I just wonder how much of this return policy is affecting the overall mindset and the grit and determination that it takes to have a healthy, long-lasting, lifetime relationship. Tell me your thoughts. All right, let's go to church. Also, I got this dress on TikTok shop. Super modest and long. And we love it. Are you ready to go to church? Let's do it.
Stop it. Get some help.
There's a stat that says almost 5% of marriages end in the first year, and between 50% in years 5 to 7. What does this tell us? A lot of women are getting married for the ring, not for being a wife. They want the big wedding, the white dress, the Instagram-worthy photos, but not the man beside them. They don't want the responsibility of managing a household. Another key issue, the social circle. If your woman has a lot of single friends or is surrounded by divorced women, friends, sisters, mothers, let me tell you something. You're next. Everything you do will go straight to their ears, and they'll give her the worst advice possible. So, when you start noticing your woman's attitude shifting toward you, even in things she used to like, red flag. Another thing is how women often romanticize married life. At the first sign of trouble, they want to jump ship. That's why I always recommend that before you get married, live with her. Because what you experience in cohabitation is a preview of married life. Only now with a financial contract that gives her the power to mess you up. So, choose wisely.
So you're thinking about going through a divorce and you're wondering if it's the right thing to do. I'm sitting in a very long Starbucks drive-through line, and I want to share a few things from my own experience of going through a divorce. Just for context, I was married for 12 years. I was married to a pastor. We were in full-time ministry together. We have 2 boys from that marriage, and I left him in 2019, so about 5 years ago. And here are the things that I experienced that are very common when you go through a divorce. This is not answering the question of if you should go through a divorce, but these are definitely some things to consider if you're considering going through a divorce. And I'm going to share this from the perspective of having children together. You're going to get something out of this if you don't have kids with your partner, because I'm going to share several things, but I'm going to share the kid side too. Okay, number one, it's going to be harder than you can even imagine. Like, I remember before I had a baby, people telling me, all the old grandmas in the church telling me how painful it was. And I was like, yeah, okay, I'm going to get through it. I'm going to get through it. And yeah, you do get through it. But when you're going through it for the first time, holy guacamole, it is way worse than even what they described to you. You literally think you're going to die. And so that's divorce. That's divorce. It's going to be harder than you even imagine. You know, they say, like, it feels like your heart is literally physically breaking. There is so much physical pain that comes with it, like, just a forewarning. Okay, so that's the first thing. All right, second thing, your entire life will change because you have built a life with this other person, and now that person is no longer there. And when I say change, just stop and think about all the things that you guys do together. Let's just talk holidays. What traditions have you established? Going to see Christmas lights? Do you do scavenger hunts with your kid? Do you go see his family, your family? Do you bake cookies? Like, what are those traditions that all of a sudden, when he's no longer or she's no longer there, you're going to be doing by yourself, or it's going to be too painful for you to do, so you're going to have to do a totally different tradition. Also, think about your friends groups. What friends do you have that are married? You're no longer going to be able to relate to those married couples like you did before. I promise you this, believe me when I say that people who say that they'll be there for you forever, it just changes the dynamic. And they might be there for you, but they're not going to understand, especially if they haven't gone through a divorce. My entire community changed. Entire community. I probably have 4 or 5 girlfriends that, like, are lifers, but my entire community, how I related, how I interacted, everything changed. Okay, there are a lot of different things, and I saved the best or the worst for last, and that is the kids. I could make a 25-minute video of all the things, but I'm going to end with this one on this. Okay, your children are going to suffer, and there's not going to be anything you can do about it. And if you're lucky, you're going to get a co-parent that will actually co-parent with you. But let me tell you, if you don't, and that co-parent alienates your kids, turns them against you, the conflict that you're going to see inside your kids is going to feel like somebody shoved a knife and is slowly twisting it in your heart. I don't know how to say it any other way. And there's nothing you can do about it. At least that's how it's going to feel. Now, I will say, in the beginning of our divorce, the first 2 years, it's exactly what my experience was like. My ex and I were in a battle that was, I'm talking hell. Everything from restraining orders to court-ordered mediation to every single week therapy. Like, it was hell. And the kids, oh my gosh, suffered. Like, there is nothing worse than watching your child suffer. I'm not kidding, there's nothing worse. I know I'm gonna get people in the comments who are like, yeah, but if you're unhappy, you know, your happiness is most important. Or they're gonna be like, you know, what about like abuse situations? I'm not talking about abusers. I'm talking about the people who are like, I'm just not happy. I think there's something better out there. Or he's just not a team player. He's just not doing the work. And yes, I do agree that it takes 2 people. And there isn't like one answer for all of this. Again, this is not a video of like whether you should get divorced or not, but I'm just telling you some of the things to expect. And I wish somebody would have told me this, like this, as bluntly as this, before I made the decision. Because I don't know if it would have helped me. It would have probably helped me walk through more gracefully, knowing that what I was experiencing was normal. Does that make sense? I don't think it would have changed my mind, but I would have been able to look back or, you know, be in the situation and just know that, like, okay, yeah, this is part of it. These are the consequences. So, anyways, I don't know if that helps. Divorce absolutely sucks. It sucks so bad. All right. That's all I got. Okay, bye.
Oh my God!
I'll just say this. When a woman loses her house, half her money, her friends, gets assigned child support, and in the worst cases, alimony, when she can't even spend time with her kids because she used to see them grow every day, but now she only gets them 2 days a week or 1 day every other week, then she can tell me divorce is hard. Because, as I've always said and will keep saying, the man who gets back up after a disastrous divorce deserves my respect. It's a tough road, a very tough one, especially when you don't have a strong support system. That's why, brothers, focus on yourself. Work on yourself. Never abandon your circle of friends, because men don't have that emotional support that women do. Sometimes, not even from their own family. Getting your life back on track after a blow like that is monumental. So, I'll leave you with this. Most men will never get the credit they deserve for everything they sacrifice to make their family happy. We've reached the end of the video, but before we go, the questions are for you. What do you think about what this woman said regarding divorce? Do you think the divorce was hard on her? Or was it worse for her ex-husband? If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell. Your support means the world to us and motivates us to create more great content. Stay tuned for the next exciting video from the wall. It's going to be epic.